just looking at your team, was it a tough decision to choose between choosing the strongest team, possible team, and giving some guys a well-deserved break?
Yeah, Chris. I mean, obviously, you always want to try and put your best players on the field, but I'm comfortable that the guys who get a start now are going to bring some energy. I looked at the Lions Cheetahs game. I mean, they played. A lot of their top players played 80 minutes. 9, 10, 15 of their players. In other words, 9, the 10, the 15, Zalinger, Hendricks, and I think Warner played 80. So yeah, so I mean, it's nice for us to get some nice energy, and then we hopefully we can either use the bench wisely, or we can spare the bench if those guys obviously have played well enough to stay on longer.
Jake, the Lions obviously have had a poor start. Let's be honest, they had a poor start to the season. They come good in the last few games, although they had a draw. But they remain one of those teams that just keep running and keep coming at you. Do you expect much the same tomorrow?
Yeah, look, I think, Jan, if you look at where they are on the log, you look at what sort of points they need, I mean, in terms of making the playoffs, then there's no doubt that what they're going to do is they're going to try and score as many tries as they can. And the interesting thing, Jan, the last team that beat us, other than, I mean, before we lost last week, whatever, was the Lions. And we sort of always seem to struggle at Ellis Park, So, yeah, it's one of those games we also have to be on song. We're going to have to also improve ourselves. As I said, last time we played there, we didn't play well either. So, yeah, I mean, if our players are aware, of what challenges we're going to get, then we'll be okay. Because I mean, as you quite rightly say, they need points. They've started badly. They need to win a couple of games. They've got nothing to lose. I mean, often people use that phrase when you always have something to lose, but they've got nothing to lose on the basis that if they don't win, they're not going to make the playoffs. So they've got to do everything in their power to try and win the game. So. Yeah, we're fully aware. That's why starting with a nice fresh team and then, as I said, having the experience on the bench if we need them is not a bad way to go.
Jake, that said, as a follow-up, how important then is it for you guys to stick to your structures and make sure that you play your own game instead of getting sucked into like the cheaters that
yeah.
Free for all?
Yeah, Jan, I mean, that is, again, that's not just this week. That's about, people always ask how much time do you spend on opposition, and I think, to be fair, it's 80-20. The 80-20 principle is you spend 80% of the time worrying about your own game and 20% of the opposition. If you spend too much time worrying about the opposition, you don't focus on your own game. So, yeah, we fully aware of the fact that, we still got to focus on what we got to get right. And I think, Jan, the first question was about this team selection. This literally goes Wednesday into the Pumas, then a week off, or a weekend off, then straight into Cheetahs, then semi-final, final. And I'm talking about all things being equal. Not being arrogant and ahead of myself. And then I think it's a week off, and then we go overseas. And I think the way it looks now is it might be 4 away games overseas, and then 8 home games at home. So, literally, if you look at the next calendar, if everything goes according to plan, this Saturday or next Saturday off, as in no game, but we play Wednesday, Saturday, and then a weekend off based on the fact that there's no Currie Cup rugby, and then there's 12 weeks consecutively where we play. So if I'm not going to use the guys that are on my bench or that are starting this week, when do I use them? And I don't want to be caught short in a month's time or 2 months' time, because some of these guys have only ever played off the bench or only ever come on when the game's either won or finished. So yeah, I mean, it gives me a great opportunity to have a look and see how this combination goes as well.
On that note, it must be very nice to rest a few guys, but then bring in youngsters like V.S. Steenkamp and Jan-Hendrik Wessels.
Exactly that, Quibus. I mean, I rate them very highly, but they're both very, very good rugby players. And I think all of you guys would know, because you've watched enough rugby and you understand rugby. You also don't want to give a guy a game only when the game's done, or only has certain pressures of coming off the bench. To start pre-match meals, start pre-match team talks, start the kickoff and the pace of the game different to the end of the game when people are a little bit more fatigued. is also something you want to give all your players an experience of understanding and experiencing. So, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to watching those guys start a game together. You know, it's a very young team that I'm starting with, and I'm talking about young as in Jan Hendrik and Veerje and Miller Ace and Janku Swanepoel and Matanzima, David Creel, Keegan Johannes. I mean, they're young guys. But saying that, if I don't start them now, Kubus, when am I going to start them? And if I don't start them, I'm not really showing much faith in the fact that I have confidence in their ability. So I'm looking forward to seeing them as a combination. And hopefully, as I said, if they're going really well, which I'm sure I have no reason why they shouldn't, it gives us so much more, I suppose, depth and confidence as a group that we can mix and match different combinations.
Jake, you mentioned the Lions have scored a lot of tries in the last few weeks. Do you feel like they're kind of going back to their style of play of a few years ago when they were sort of dominating South Africa? Have you gone back to that sort of DNA?
Look, Ken, I think there's no doubt that they will always have that. There's a lot of players that have been in that system. There are coaches that are coaching that have played like that. So you get Warren Whiteley and Julian Redlingace and those players who played with that sort of style. So I'm sure they will be pushing that to the players on the basis that they got massive amounts of success from that. But then let's not also underestimate, I think the competition itself, Ken, has gone like that. You look at all the scores, 35, 34, 42, 40, 50 odd, 30 something. I think generally what's happened is that the referees have been absolutely, strict on zero tolerance at certain aspects of the game, whether it's the breakdown rolling away, whether it's, offsides or whatever the story is. I think it's created a bit more space. And I think with space, obviously you're going to get a lot more tries because, the skill levels and especially the conditions we're playing in. We play half past 1 on Saturday. It's not a bad time to play. It's almost like school rugby. You can play when the best time of the day. And so I don't think it's only the Lions. I think it's everyone trying to get much more ball in plays up to about 36, 37, 38 minutes now. And the stop-start, I mean, not that it's important for you guys, but I mean, the time that you go from the ball being out of play back into play, it can be 35, 40 seconds max. Sometimes it can go down to 12, 13 seconds, So it just shows you that with tempo and pace and skill levels and the referees allowing players to actually have a go by creating space and being really strict on defenses and on tacklers, you're going to get high scoring games. So yeah, I mean, I suppose it's a nice thing for everyone to be able to play like that.
Hi, Coach. It's Morgan. Just with this hectic schedule that you've mentioned, has it changed the way that you guys approach every match now and the way you guys are training? It obviously has had an impact in that regard. How are you guys coping with all of these matches in such a short turnaround?
Look, Morgan, of course it's changed. I mean, we played 2 days ago. I mean, if you consider now, I mean, we haven't even properly recovered and we've got to get sort of new plays and new combinations ready for tomorrow afternoon. And but saying that, I mean, everyone's got the same. Everyone, I think Pumas go down to Cape Town on Sunday, play Western Province on Sunday, and then they got to fly back Monday, play us on Wednesday in Nelspruit. I mean, that's not an ideal turnaround. The Lions played late on Wednesday evening, drove back in a bus from Bloemfontein on Thursday, trained today and play tomorrow. So what I'm saying is it's the same for everybody. I think what you get confidence out of, Morgan, is that what as coaches, and I'm only talking for myself, is that the work we've put in over a long period of time with different combinations, with the structures we put in place of players understanding what their roles are. There's no better way than firstly getting confident that that's going to work, but secondly giving them an opportunity after having been together with us for a long, long time, being able to do it under pressure in a game situation. So, yeah, it has changed, but I also think that there's a lot of things that are positive in that. The bigger squads training longer together. I'm just using an example. Keegan Johannes has come off the bench many, many times, but he's been part of our team for a long, long time. So for him to get the number 9 jersey and start is no different to him sitting on the bench as a reserve halfback.
Jake, you were hoping to play Jacques du Plessis at the weekend. Obviously, a late withdrawal from that game and not in your squad for the Lions. Just what's the latest on him?
Yeah, look, Ken, he's still not ready yet. You know, it's one of those. He wants to get in and he wants to play. I mean, obviously, he's dying to get on the field and be part of it. But you know, as I said to you earlier, Ken, you know, with what rugby we have coming up and with what is still expected from us, literally, you know, I know that SA Rugby and that will be on a call today with a Zoom call getting through our program. I'm talking about for when we kick off United Rugby Championships. But and I'm not giving it away because it's changing all the time with protocols and COVID. But it looks like we might have to go away for a month in the beginning of the competition. I imagine, you know, you can't then take injured guys, and I don't want him to be 50-50. I want him to be 100% ready when we go on tour. So, you know, all those guys, you know, whether it's Rob Hunt or Ambrose Papier or all those guys we're waiting on coming back, I'm going to be handling the same way, making sure that we don't have people breaking down the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then we have a reduced squad that I can obviously pick from in the beginning of the competition.
Jake, just on Marcel, what is his injury?
Yeah, Kubis, he got a, you know, that last play of the first half where they threw that overthrow at the line out, basically got a head bang on Franca's hip. And I think, you know, obviously concussion-wise, doctor took him off. And at this point in time, you know, I think the turnaround's too soon for a guy who got a head knock to play literally 3 days later. So, yeah, at this point in time, hopefully all things being equal, we can use him next week or next Wednesday against the Pumas away.